Welcome to the 700 Club, and thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to the West Bank, where school children are taught to praise and honor those who attacked Israel and the Jewish people. And that is going on in Palestinian schools. And here's I guess the worst part. Your tax dollars are paying for it. And that's all thanks to the new administration. President Biden has decided to resume funding the Palestinian Authority and the UN Relief Works Agency, UNRWA.
Well, that's just one of the huge challenges Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be facing if he succeeds in forming a majority coalition government. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Faced with a nearly impossible scenario, Prime Minister Netanyahu is aggressively taking up the challenge.
I will make every effort to take Israel out from the circle of recurring elections and to establish a strong government for all citizens of Israel.
In order to gain the 61 seats, Netanyahu would need the backing of Naftali Bennett's Yamina party and either the Islamist Ram party or defectors from other parties. Danny Danon, chairman of World Likud, sees a potential two-stage process.
The first stage is to get a government, regardless of the number of support we have, just to get the votes to pass it in the parliament. The second stage will be to bring more parties and to make it a stronger coalition.
Meanwhile, Israel is objecting to President Biden's decision to resume funding to the Palestinian Authority and UNRWA, the UN body overseeing Palestinian refugees.
In conversations with the U.S. State Department, I have expressed my disappointment and objection to the decision to renew UNRWA's funding without first ensuring that certain reforms, including stopping the incitement and removing anti-Semitic content from its educational curriculum, are carried out.
David Bedeen, whose organization monitors the UNRWA education system, says children are still taught to honor and appreciate those who attack Israel and its people.
How can you allocate funds to a school system which teaches the children to make war on a member state of the United Nations? There is no accountability procedure in UNRWA. This is an agency which has military training in the schools.
With the majority of its budget going to education, Bedeen calls for UNRWA to be held responsible for what it teaches.
Donor nations could demand, number one, a disarming of the UNRWA camps. Number two, stopping military training in the camps. Number three, introducing concepts of peace education, of reconciliation with their Jewish neighbors, instead of saying the only solution for the Jewish neighbors is to make war on them.
Bedeen maintains the priority should be investigating to understand what really goes on inside these camps, rather than just go with the flow and get excited about giving money to refugees. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, here's an underlying fact, and that there aren't any refugees anymore. We're talking about something that happened 73 years ago. In 1948, Israel declared that it was a nation. It's Independence Day for Israel. That was 73 years ago. The same day, the surrounding Arab nations declared war on the brand new state. And in that declaration, encouraged the Arabs to leave their homes. They didn't want them to be collateral damage in the war. And so they left. They never expected Israel to win, but Israel won. And now to say, well, there's an ongoing refugee crisis. Well, no, there's no refugee crisis. How can you possibly claim that in the fourth, fifth, sixth generation since 1948? So we need to come to the reality that this isn't a refugee problem. What it is an ideological problem, and what they're doing is teaching their children to wipe out Israel. That is the education that's happening in the Palestinian schools. They erect monuments to suicide bombers. They declare them to be heroes and martyrs for the faith. And their goal that they teach their children is we need to drive the Jews into the sea. That's why you haven't seen peace. That's why there's really no two-state solution because the Palestinians have no idea that they want to create a separate state. They want to wipe out Israel. That's their idea of peace. So why are we funding it? Why are we funding that kind of ideology? I applauded the Trump administration for recognizing the reality on the ground and saying this is not a good deal for the American taxpayer. To see these payments resumed, it's just continuing a fiction, and it's continuing to kick the can down the road. These refugee, quote, camps, close quote, should be closed. It should no longer be recognized as a refugee problem. And when you finally have the Palestinians say, we want to live at peace with Israel, well, now you can come to a peaceful solution. But until that time, until they stop training their children to kill Jews, you're never going to see peace. Well, in other news, a South Carolina doctor who was killed in a shooting attack is being remembered for his strong Christian faith. Ephraim Graham has that story from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, Dr. Robert Leslie was among the 5 people killed in the shootings Wednesday, along with 3 members of his family and a repairman. The doctor was known as a pillar of the community. He often wrote of his work and faith, once writing, "One day when I depart this body and find myself in the presence of the Lord, my time, however it will be measured, will be filled with the praises and the wonder of Jesus." The shooting investigation comes as President Biden announced executive action on gun control Thursday, but Republicans and gun rights supporters are questioning his agenda. The government apprehended nearly 19,000 migrant children on the southern border last month, the largest number ever. The surge of children and teenagers traveling without a parent doubled the number from February. Some 30% of the 172,000 migrants encountered at the border were making repeat attempts to cross. Conservatives and other critics have complained about liberal bias in major media for decades, and now they say it is on full display once again. Our Jennifer Wishon explains.
In the latest example, 60 Minutes, a pillar of American journalism, has been forced to repeatedly defend a report drawing bipartisan criticism. The report examines vaccine access for Florida seniors and the decision to let Publix grocery stores administer shots. A move, the reporter points out, came after Publix made a $100,000 political donation to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
The criticism is that it's pay to play, Governor.
It's wrong. It's a fake narrative. I just disabused you of the narrative, and you don't care about the facts because obviously I laid it out for you in a way that is irrefutable.
In extended remarks, DeSantis explained why Publix was used, but CBS didn't air it. 2 state officials, both Democrats, are defending the governor, including Emergency Management Director Jared Maskowitz. No one from the governor's office suggested Publix. It's just absolute malarkey, he tweeted. And Palm Beach County Mayor Dave Kerner, also a Democrat, issued a statement calling the story intentionally false, saying 60 Minutes should be ashamed.
Well, I mean, it was an obvious hit job.
Dan Gaynor with the Media Research Center says the media is trying to kneecap Governor DeSantis before he can announce his expected candidacy for president.
They cut out pretty much everything that went against their narrative.
60 Minutes defends its reporting. The controversy comes on the heels of little coverage of President Biden recently tripping 3 times while climbing the stairs to Air Force One, compared with this slow walk down a ramp taken by President Trump last year, which became a national story about his fitness for office. This all plays into the reality that nearly 60% of Americans believe media organizations are more concerned with supporting a political position than informing the public. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Objectivity out the window. Gordon?
Well, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for the country. It's a tragedy for free speech. It's a tragedy for freedom of the press. But at the same time, it's nothing new in American history. Newspapers for a very long period of time have taken very active positions politically and have done either puff pieces or hit jobs. It's up to us as consumers of news to be aware of the bias in the news organizations that are talking to us. And this is quite clearly a hit job. I think that's been proven without need to go through the facts again. But why would you want to do that? And it's very obvious why you'd want to do that. You want to cut off somebody from higher office, and so you say, if I can kneecap them in the beginning stages, then they won't have a chance in a primary and they won't have a chance in a general election. This has been going on for some time. We've now started to call it fake news, but it's actually a news with a particular opinion driving it. And that opinion and that ideology is starting to trump the facts. The good news is we still have a free press. And so in that free press, we get to point it out. This is fake news. This is opinion. This is an opinion piece. The facts that are presented are quite clearly biased. Well, religious liberty is in crisis here in the United States and around the world. So what can be done to stop this unprecedented assault on freedom? Judge Ken Starr is sounding the alarm for people of faith to stand up and fight.
From the beginning, our founding fathers put religious freedom at the forefront of the nation. The First Amendment to the Constitution explicitly protects freedom of speech, assembly, and worship. Yet for more than 50 years, those freedoms have eroded under a barrage of decisions by the courts, the executive branch, and even Congress. Today, state governors shutter churches while Christian bakers and others fight for their livelihoods in court. The nation that exported the idea of religious freedom around the world is now itself under assault from inside. Why did it come to this? And what is the solution? One of America's top legal scholars, Judge Ken Starr, takes on those questions in his new book, Religious Liberty in Crisis: Exercising Your Faith in an Age of Uncertainty.
Well, Judge Ken Starr joins us now from Waco, Texas. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. So good to be with you.
Well, you were releasing this book in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and this pandemic has definitely underlined what's at stake here with governments and in particular governors trying to shut down public worship gatherings. How far do you think we're going to go in this type of overreach? And what defenses do churches have right now?
Yeah, and that's the good news. It's really up to the governors, to Governor Cuomo and Gavin Newsom, in some of the states where religious liberty is not, I'm just going to say it, taken as seriously, sometimes even derided, right, as a mask for discrimination. But here's the good news. When we get these cases up to the Supreme Court of the United States, there are great principles of liberty that undergird our entire constitutional structure, but especially making this the sweet land of liberty that it is. But it's not as if we all just sing to one another, kumbaya, everything is great. No, we have to be vigilant and we have to fight the great principles of liberty, which I've described in this book, which I hope will be a tool for everyone, for every American of faith, or even those not of faith, but who believe in our culture of freedom. They can use this book, I believe, to give a reason for the hope that should be within us all, which is this is our first freedom. And those of us, particularly of faith, should be able to give an account of ourselves that's persuasive and winsome in the marketplace of ideas, so that we don't just say, it's my opinion, or I have a different view. No, here are the principles that are grounded in our Constitution and supported by the case law. So, final point on the pandemic, guess what? The Supreme Court, shaky start, but has ridden to the rescue. Now, the church closure cases are all going in the direction of religious freedom and the freedom to worship.
Well, let's talk about prayer. Let's talk about a case that didn't make it to the Supreme Court and it was out of the Ninth Circuit, where a football coach just wanted to kneel in prayer after a game. He wanted to do that on his own. He made a vow that he would do that regardless of the outcome, he wanted to pray after the game. When the school found out about it, they shut it down. And then, curiously, I thought this was a slam dunk. The Ninth Circuit said, no, the school's right. You don't have a right to pray. And then the Supreme Court didn't take the case. I'm puzzled why. Do you have an answer to that?
It's inscrutable. Why didn't the court take that case? Coach Kennedy's case cried out for restoration of his rights. So the court does not always take these cases. In fact, we had to wait patiently for the court to really get, as if I may say so, its act together on church closure. But overwhelmingly, the court will step in, maybe not as quickly as we want, not in every case that we want, and will say, we are going to strike yet another blow in favor of religious liberty, including at times, and this is very good news, unanimously in favor of religious liberty.
Well, let's talk about the Colorado baker. And here's another curious one where the Supreme Court took it, ruled in his favor, ruled that he had a free speech right, that his cake decorations didn't have to go against his religious beliefs. But then, curiously, the same commission that was fined him the first time found another case and somebody else that wanted a cake, and he's back at it all over again. Is there any remedy for him? It seems like the government is being remarkably oppressive and targeting him.
There's no question that the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, that particular case, went way over the line in its enforcement of the public accommodations law. And this, in fact, is one of our key issues now, and that's freedom of conscience. That's one of the great principles. Historically, in the United States of America, in this sweet land of liberty, we have been deeply respectful of acts of conscience, freedom of conscience. And the way the Colorado Commission treated Jack Phillips of Masterpiece Cake Shop was shameful. Happily, they were condemned by the Supreme Court of the United States. But yes, he's had to continue the battle. Here's some good news. It's not great good news, but the Colorado Civil Rights Commission did begin another case, but then they dismissed that case. What Jack is now facing is a civil lawsuit. So God bless him. He's got a new book coming out. Everyone should read that book when it comes out, because it tells, I did a review of it, it tells a story of faith. We have not been promised an easy ride, right? And I think this generation, our time, for such a time as this, we have to equip ourselves for this battle that is underway. And again, as I say, to give a reason for the hope of freedom that is within us. We have the tools, and we can win. There will be setbacks, but we can win. We have been winning, and thanks, as you know, to organizations, including at Regent University, the Center for Constitutional Law that's been established quite recently, the Robertson Center. I'm so proud of what Regent University has done. Alliance Defending Freedom, First Liberty in Dallas, the Beckett Fund. There are many friends of freedom. We can stand up and be heard and to take our challenges all the way to the Supreme Court. I say, let's follow the example of the Apostle Paul in the book of Acts. He knew how to mount an appeal. He knew how to defend himself, and then to say when things weren't going well, I appeal to the Supreme Court, namely Caesar. We need to take our example now from what the Bible teaches, which is we do have human dignity. We have basic freedom. For freedom, Christ has made us free. And so, but we've got to stand up for that freedom, as opposed to saying, well, the culture is against us, and so what can we do? We can act, and first we need to equip ourselves for the battle, the nonviolent battle that is underway with respect to our culture.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the book. I encourage everyone to get it. It's called Religious Liberty in Crisis. If you want to get informed on what your rights are, what is the case law, and make yourself a lawyer. Just be like St. Paul. Let's get educated on what the law is, what are the limits of government, and how you can stand for your religious liberty. It's available wherever books are sold. Welcome back to the show. Let's go all the way back to 1867. Well, that's the year a British engineer and archaeologist arrived in Jerusalem. Well, his name was Charles Warren, and his mission was to uncover the biblical history of the Holy Land. Since then, thousands of archaeological discoveries have been made throughout the Middle East. The history of the Bible is written in stone. Take a look.
What is beautiful about archaeology is that it gives tangible evidence of what we know from historical sources. Learn from what the field teaches you. Give the biblical narrative a chance.
We have a biblical tradition, and we have the archaeology. And the question is what the relationship between the two.
Not everything that shines is gold. In this case, it was.
This is the only artifact that was in the Holy of the Holy. I am holding the artifact that was in the Holy of the Holy. It's amazing, isn't it?
In the minute we found it, we understood that we are standing against something that we never saw before. It was like, what else we need?
When Jesus turned upside down the tables of the money changers, they fell upon some floor. We have that floor. We have those floors upon which Jesus could have walked.
This is as close as you can get to the biblical narratives that comes alive. This is a signature you cannot argue with. I mean, how closer you want to get?
It is the most important archaeological site in the country. Nevertheless, it has never been excavated.
If you want to walk on the particular street where Jesus and the apostles walked on, this is the place you're going to go.
I believe beneath that location, you will find King David's palace.
There is a certain place where the prophet can actually say, I have anointed King Solomon. This is actual history that took place here on the site where we sit right now.
Some of our finds may cause a rewriting of the history of the Temple Mount.
It's real. You can actually walk on the stones, touch it, see it.
The people, the events, many of these can be proved from archaeological evidence. It tells the exact story that the Bible does.
You don't want to believe what's written in the Bible? Fine. See what archaeology is teaching you.
Well, please welcome back to the 700 Club the genius behind all of CBN's films, the director, writer, producer, Aaron Zimmerman. And Aaron, it's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Let's talk about a modern-day Charles Warren, Alat Mazar. She was literally born into being a biblical archaeologist. How did you first meet her?
I met her doing an interview for talking about King David, actually, and talking about the King David's palace, which she found. And she's just one of my all-time favorite people to talk to. It could have been all day. But the way that I first saw her was taking a walk in Jerusalem, and she was next to her archaeological dig, which was below the road level. So she's standing on the side of the road yelling down to her students in the dig, la, 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 and you can hear it all the way down the street. And I thought, this is amazing. Here I'm taking my morning walk, and I see what I'm seeing is not people walking their dogs or whatever. I'm seeing this archaeologist digging up the Temple Mount, and that's my morning walk. It was amazing.
Yeah, many people may not know that you lived in Jerusalem,
yeah.
and that's how you got so well acquainted with both the archaeology as well as the personalities. You also had another encounter, and this is with an archaeologist who's professing to be an atheist. At the same time, he's proving the Bible. How does that work?
That's what's fantastic about both of these, both Alat Mazar and this man, Yossi Garfinkel, that you're talking about. They both are non-observant Jews. They say they're not religious. They don't view the Bible as a religious book. But the important thing is that they view it as a valid historical source. And Yossi is amazing because he says in this quote, and you'll see it in this film that we've done, he'll say, I'm an atheist, meaning an atheist, but in Hebrew he says atheist. I'm an atheist, and perhaps that's why God's blessed me with all these wonderful finds. which is an amazing statement to me. So contradictory. But what he says is really important. He says there's a move right now in archaeology, not the people that we covered, but another brand of archaeologists, and they just want to discredit the Bible for no reason, and they have no reason to do so. In fact, one gentleman said, well, there was no such person as King David. He was like King Arthur. He was a legend, and the Israelites, the Jews, created him so that they would have a good origin story. No archaeological basis for him to do so. And then in 1993, another group of archaeologists discovered a stone that said House of David on it. And it was written by Israel's enemies, the Assyrians. There was another one written by the Moabites. And here Israel's enemies, not 200 years after David's death, are saying, here's the House of David. And so these guys had to go, well, guess there is a David. But he wasn't that big. He was a tribal chief. He wasn't a king of a big kingdom. So what Yossi Garfinkel has done is he's gone and discovered this amazing Israelite city from King David's time in the very place where David killed Goliath, in the Valley of Elah. And what he says is so important. He says, can we just take 3,000 years of tradition and just kick it away? He said, that's become fashionable. And he said, I don't think that we can. He said, you have to check it out first. And he said, that's what I'm doing. And so he says, what I'll find, I'll find. I don't have an agenda here. And he said, I don't know the reason, but I keep finding things that match up with the biblical account. So two non-religious people verifying the Bible on a daily basis.
For viewers of House of David, what do you want them to take away from the film?
I want them to know this truth that one archaeologist said, and it's a very simple statement. Not one thing has ever been discovered in the land of Israel or anywhere in the Middle East that discounts the Bible. Every single archaeological find that has anything to do with the Bible has verified it exactly. So that's kind of what I want people to take away. And also, I feel like if you already believe the Bible and you might say, well, why do I need to watch this? Number one, it's a great travelogue. I miss Israel. I watch these things and I wish I could go back, because of COVID, we all can't. And also, I think it's a great thing for your children. There's so many children being homeschooled right now, and people may be thinking, what do I give my children to do now? It's a great thing. You won't see anything inappropriate. It'll be amazing. Your kids will learn biblical knowledge. They'll learn history. They'll learn archaeology. And I think it's just amazing for any family.
You like to take on ambitious projects.
I have a boss that likes me to also.
Okay. So what are you working on now?
I'm working on something that God really told me to do. And I argued with him. And here's a lesson. Don't do that. Just don't argue with him. You're going to end up in the belly of a whale or you're going to end up in Nineveh. Either way, maybe both. But a few years ago when I lived in Israel, I felt him speaking to me that I needed to do a film on the creation of the Bible. How it was written, how it was created, how the books were picked, how it was translated, that whole process. I felt like there was a lot of confusion after the Da Vinci Code on how that whole process went, and a lot of untruths. And as soon as I got that feeling, I argued. I said, come on, God, there's got to be a million things like that on the History Channel. There's got to be a million people have done that already. And it was almost as if I heard him say, all right, I'll wait. You go watch them. I'll wait. And I went and watched them, and they're just blatantly heinous blasphemy. All of these movies that I've seen start off with the premise that the Bible is a fairy tale, and it is not true, and it was not correctly translated, and we're going to show you all the reasons why. I could not find one film that was, in my viewpoint, doctrinally accurate. So I went, all right, God, I understand now why you told me to do this. Well, so this is what we're working on now.
In addition to the doctrinal accuracy, you're also finding the history and even the archaeology of how we got the Bible.
It's been a great combination. This series has shown, written in stone, we've done one on Jesus, we have this one now on David, and we have two more coming down the line, one about the temple and one about the kings, the ancient kings and prophets of Israel. And this has been an amazing series. If you put this whole series together, it goes the length of the Bible, and it shows, it's an illustration of the Bible, and it shows how each detail was correct that God has written in the Bible. So then to go from that to go to something where it says, hey, this is when these books were written, this is who wrote them, in as much as we can say from the Old Testament. It's a bit difficult, but we can say these books were translated and they were preserved and copied, and you can be confident that this is the Word of God that you were intended to have.
And you can also be confident this is the Word of God that was available to the church in the first century.
Exactly.
And that is a fact that I think is being lost in our modern culture. So anyway, thank you.
Lost gospels.
Thank you for listening to the voice of God, and thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you for letting me do it.
All right, well, here's the thing. If you want to watch House of David and get that wonderful DVD, we're asking for donations, and it's a gift of any dollar amount. What your donation will do is fund this next project that Aaron's working on called The Oracles of God. How did we get the Bible? Is it reliable? What are the sources for it? What are the sources for the translations? What's the history of the Bible? So if you want it, want to help support that, and you want to get House of David, visit cbn.com/written in stone. You can call us, 1-800-700-7000. Say, I'd like to get House of David. Here's my gift of any dollar amount. Or you can simply text King David, all one word, to 51555. For your gift of any dollar amount, you'll get instant 4K access streaming. You'll also get sent a copy, a DVD copy. So do it now. If you'd like to support it, like to get educated, like to have your faith encouraged, call us now, 1-800-700-7000.
And welcome back to the 700 Club for this CBN News break. Prince Philip, the husband of Queen Elizabeth II, has died at age 99. Philip married Elizabeth in 1947. He was the longest-serving consort in British history. He retired from public engagements in 2017 after carrying out more than 20,000 of them. CBN's Operation Blessing is feeding people in need during the COVID crisis. LaToya is a single mother in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Her employee cut her working hours during the COVID layoffs, and she struggled to put food on the table for herself and her daughter, Zakiya. But Operation Blessing has partnered with Eastern Star Church, which holds regular food distributions. That food helped LaToya and many other struggling families. A grateful LaToya said, "It makes me feel happy. There are people out there who want to help us." You can learn more about Operation Blessing by visiting its website, ob.org.
Well, we've got a great announcement. We've got a new member of the Superbook family, and it's called Gizmo Go. It's created especially for younger children. Superbook is designed for children aged 6 to 12, and Gizmo Go goes younger, down to toddlers. So when you join the Superbook Club, and if you're already a member, you're going to get 3 copies of the newest episode, and it's for a recurring gift to help us with the production costs. So it's $25 on a credit card or debit card. This month, we'll send you 3 copies of the episode, The Quantum Hotel, and your gift will go into the translation costs, the production costs, the distribution costs. Our goal is to have the children of the world hear the stories of the Bible and make it age appropriate, whether they're toddlers or they're in grade school. We want to make sure they get the stories, and you're a part of it when you join the Superbook Club. If you'd like to join, just call us, 1-800-700-7000, or you can visit cbn.com. Terry?
Well, that's an exciting new adventure.
Yeah. A new member of the family.
Yes, exactly. Well, 9 years of cruelty from her abusive husband, followed by a costly divorce. That's what left this mother of 3 little boys drowning in debt. So how did she make a complete 180? Take a look.
After 9 years in an abusive marriage, Matika Garrison took her 3 kids and moved out, and soon found out how expensive it was to make a break.
I probably spent close to $25,000 to $30,000 on legal fees.
On a few occasions, Matika had to choose between paying her attorneys or her mortgage. To avoid losing custody of her children, she chose the attorneys.
I think the hardest part for me was when I think I had missed 2 mortgage payments. I got letters in the mail that they wanted to start foreclosure on my house.
Matika emptied her retirement account to save her home from foreclosure, and her divorce was finalized 2 years later. But because she was the primary provider, having a steady job in IT, the court did not mandate her ex-husband to pay child support.
I would take money from wherever I could, cash advance off of a credit card, wherever I needed to get money from. That's how I would pay for it.
Matika had to go on hardship programs to raise her 3 children.
My purpose of being here is to provide a stable environment for my children. Something's really wrong. If a mom can't provide a stable place for her children to be and to feel comfort and relaxed and a sense of home.
A few years later, Matika was still paying off legal debts when she had a major health crisis. It was breast cancer.
For every procedure that you have, you get 3 bills, one a facility bill, a doctor bill, and one for whatever anesthesia or technician you have. I went through 27 weeks of chemo and 7.5 weeks of radiation.
Earlier that year, Matika had made a decision to start tithing on a regular basis. In the face of this new challenge, she continued to trust God.
I believe it's God's consistent when we are consistent.
A few months later, Matika earned a promotion at her job. That new salary helped her pay down the last of her debts and medical expenses. And best of all, she's now cancer-free. Matika is doing better than ever, and tithing has become a part of her routine. Now she's building a legacy of giving in her family.
If you begin your tithing, you will see God move in your life. You will see a hunger for the word like never before. It starts by taking that first step of faith. It is so awesome to be able to give openly and freely and actually show my children. It is phenomenal.
Matika is an amazing woman, amazing in her steadfastness, amazing in her faith, amazing in her willingness to trust God in the midst of great difficulty, and how faithful God was to her. And now she has a story to share with all of us about that faithfulness, about God's goodness, about how to walk out difficult times. You know, we teach that here on the 700 Club all the time. It's the Word of God. It's what God has called us to. We want to thank you, 700 Club members, because you help us be there for people who are needing to hear that word, who are needing to understand God's goodness in the midst of difficult times. You also do a million other things. You know, you're speaking into the lives of need in our military people. You're touching people who live in poverty in second and third world countries. You're touching needs here in the United States in times of natural disasters. You're doing it all. What does it cost to be a 700 Club member? It's 65 cents a day, $20 a month. Some of you watch this program regularly, but you haven't gone to your phone and joined with the rest of us yet. Will you do that today? Our number's toll free. It doesn't cost you anything to call. It's 1-800-700-7000. Call and say, I want to join the 700 Club. We welcome you to the family of ministries here and to the thousands of people who've committed to make a difference in the world. We want you to be part of that. And our thank you to you for joining is to send you Pat's latest book. It's called I Have Walked with the Living God, not just an account of Pat and the amazing things that he has done in his lifetime, but God's amazing faithfulness to him along the way. He's very candid in here about some of the times he has made mistakes and how God has stood with him and redirected what needed to be done. It's a story of God's faithfulness, and we want you to have this. We want you to join the 700 Club. So will you do that now? 1-800-700-7000. Caught red-handed. Jason Biddle was shooting up in the bathroom when his wife, Brittany, walked in on him. She had no clue he was addicted to painkillers. Then one weekend, while Brittany was out of town, Jason OD'd. So what saved his life? Take a look.
I pulled off the road and I had just taken a drink and I'm like, I need a DUI. I need whatever it is. I'm willing to accept the consequences because I can't stop. God, I can't stop. I'm going to wreck my marriage. I'm going to wreck my family.
Jason Biddle struggled with an alcohol and drug addiction for over a decade.
I had this just lust and this physical dependency that I had to use these drugs. And if I didn't have them, I'd be sick.
When Jason was a boy growing up in Minnesota, he idolized baseball. When an injury thwarted his sports career, he got into construction work.
The money became my new love. I mean, I was making tens of thousands of dollars a week in some cases. And I could spend it on whatever I wanted, frivolously.
Much of that frivolous spending went for alcohol. Bodybuilding also became a big part of Jason's life. To deal with a muscular pain, he began taking the painkiller Nubane.
It took away the pain. It was fine. And then I remember one time I actually hit a vein with it, and it was the best high I'd ever had. And then it went from working out to just shooting up Nubane.
Later, Jason met and married Brittany. She had no clue about his substance abuse until she caught him shooting up in their bathroom.
It became real clear to me that it was serious, and I just couldn't be with him the rest of my life. So I decided to leave, finally, after many threats that day. I left.
Jason talked Brittany into reconciling, and they started a family. Later, a friend invited them to a spirit-filled church where they heard the gospel, and both responded.
I wanted to learn more about Jesus. I wanted to learn more about faith, and I knew that this was a true spiritual heart connection versus what I had had before.
I just remember him doing the altar call, and hey, if you're not sure that you're going to go to heaven, you know, this is how it happens. You know, you've got to confess with your mouth and say that you're a sinner, and you got to believe that Christ died for your sins. And man, when he said that, I remember just something came over me, and I raised my hand, and I knew that I wanted that.
Jason stayed sober for a while, but the years of drug and alcohol abuse had taken a toll on his liver, and he had to have a tumor removed. When his surgery was over, he was prescribed more painkillers.
The doctor told me, he said, you can't ever drink again because you're borderline cirrhotic. Within the first week, I remember going to the liquor store and getting a bottle when my wife was gone. I took the car, and with a wide open wound, wide open liver, and I went down because the pills just weren't enough. I needed to have alcohol with it.
One weekend, Brittany went away with some friends when she got an early morning phone call from one of their kids.
He was calling saying that he couldn't wake up his dad. I got on the next flight home to Minnesota and met my parents at the hospital. And that is where they said, the doctors were saying he was just critically ill, and they didn't know which way it would go yet. They had never seen anybody recover from from the vitals being so low.
When Jason recovered from his overdose, Brittany left him again. This was a turning point for him.
She's like, you know, Jason, this has been going on for too long. I got to protect the kids, and I don't know if this is going to work. And I'm like, God, if she doesn't want to be with me, I deserve it. I surrender it all to you, Lord. And I give it all. I give it all up to you. You do with it as you will, because I can't do it anymore. I think that was the moment of absolute, true brokenness and surrendering.
Upon his release from the hospital, Jason entered a rehab program at Redemption House in Minnesota.
Addiction is always comes back to a heart issue. It always comes back to our sick hearts, because we want something that we want to fill something that we just can't. And then drugs and alcohol are they're just kind of an easy thing to fill a void with. I had these idols. I didn't know what idols were, but an idol is anything that we put in front of God. And we were able to harness in what my idols were, things that I just really put in front of God that I held really close to my heart. And that was pride, control, and money. I loved those things.
While at Redemption House, Jason also began writing songs with another resident. And God has opened up doors for a music ministry.
I'm not ashamed of what happened, because God gave me a story that he wants me to share. It's becoming a ministry through the music and through my story that I can share the gospel.
Jason is now clean and sober for good, and God has restored his marriage. With the old idols gone from his life, he now has a new focus.
I'm just super blessed to have been able to find and be where I'm at right now spiritually with my wife and family through him using that absolute brokenness. And I'm super excited and honored to be used by God. There's only one way. There's only one hope, and that's Christ. It really is. And you have to let everything down. You have to hit your rock bottom. We want to try to do it on our own, especially addicts and alcoholics. We want to try to do it on our own. Nobody wants to wave the white flag, but man, when you wave the white flag, that's when God comes running. That's when he comes running towards you.
It's interesting to me, God in his word gives us a love letter that clearly tells us that we were not created to do it on our own. And yet there's something in us, isn't there, that thinks from time to time we can do it better than God, or at least that we can do it without him. And that way, often we get what we think we want. But you know, one of the things Jason said that I think rings so true is addiction always boils down to a heart issue. You know what? Sin. Sin always boils down to a heart issue, doesn't it? We have a Father who loves us so much that no matter where we go, no matter what we do, no matter how far we run from him or how long we're gone, no matter how deep the pit we find ourselves in or how great the sin we've committed, he receives us back when we genuinely are remorseful and asking forgiveness for our sins. You know, some of you today might be watching this story, and maybe you just hear the story of a man who was addicted, and at some point he becomes absolutely distraught, falls on his knees, and God takes the addiction away. But really, the story here is that it's never too late. You can't run too far to get away from God. He's with you. He's always there. He's with all of us. He's here. This is his world. He created it. And so stop running. What are you running from? Is the stuff you're doing or the places that you're hanging out or the people you're hanging out with, are you happy? You know, when we sin for a season, it seems like it's so good. And then one day the emptiness sets in. And you know, it's like a voice that just will not leave you alone. God is waiting for you. Do a 180, just like he did, just like Jason did. Turn around, open up your arms, fall on your knees and say, God, what have I done? I've walked away from you, my inheritance as your child. I'm in a mess of my own creating and I can't fix it. Jesus, I need you. I want you. Come into my life. Forgive my sin. I am so sorry. Teach me how to live for you. I don't even know how to do that. Fill me with your Holy Spirit. Give me a new beginning. I want to be your child. I want to walk in your ways. I want my life to matter because you're directing it, not me. If you need someone to pray with you today about a specific need in your life, there's always someone on the other end of our line, 1-800-700-7000. And here's a word from the Lord for you from 2 Corinthians. For no matter how many promises God has made, they are yes in Christ. God bless you today.